Every history textbook on Earth begins the story of civilization in roughly the same place, Mesopotamia. Around 3,500 BC, the Sumerians invent writing, cities form, agriculture spreads, and humanity, slowly, messily, builds the world we recognize. That's the official story. Now, there is a hill in southeastern Turkey. It looks like any other hill on the Anatolian plain. Dry, unremarkable, a slight rise in the earth, surrounded by nothing. In 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt arrived at that hill and noticed something in the soil. He started to dig. What he found beneath that hill didn't just rewrite one chapter of human history. It rewrote the entire first chapter. Welcome to Unburied Remnants. The truth was never lost. It was buried. Let's dig in. The site is called Göbekli Tepe. In Turkish, it means potbelly hill. It is located in the Şanlıurfa province of southeastern Turkey, near the ancient city of Harran. The oldest sections of the site have been dated to approximately 9,600 BC. That is 11,600 years ago. Stonehenge was built around 3000 BC, the Great Pyramid around 2600 BC. Göbekli Tepe is older than both, by more than 6,000 years. What was found at the site were massive T-shaped limestone pillars. Some stand more than 5.5 meters tall. Some weigh up to 10 tons. They are carved, intricately, with animal reliefs. Foxes, scorpions, vultures, wild boar, aurochs, snakes. The detail is extraordinary. And these pillars were arranged in deliberate circular enclosures, each with two larger central pillars facing each other, like sentinels. At least 20 enclosures have been identified. Less than 5% of the total site has been excavated. Now here's the problem. The people who built this had no metal tools. According to the archaeological record, they had no pottery, no writing, no wheeled vehicles, no permanent settlements. By every established model of human civilizational development, the people who built Göbekli Tepe should not have been capable of building Göbekli Tepe. This is not a controversial statement. It is the consensus position of the archaeologists who have been excavating it for 30 years. The site simply should not exist at the time it exists. So who built it? The working hypothesis, and this is Klaus Schmidt's own conclusion from 2 decades of excavation, is that hunter-gatherers built it. Nomadic people. People with no fixed home, no agricultural base, no centralized government. Schmidt called it the Cathedral Hypothesis. His argument was radical, and it turned the accepted story of civilization upside down. The standard model says agriculture came first. Farming produces surplus food. Surplus food allows people to settle. Settled communities build monuments. Schmidt looked at Göbekli Tepe and said, what if it was the other way around? What if organized religion, the desire to build a monument to something greater than yourself, came first? What if it was the temple that drew people together? And what if that gathering, sustained over generations, is what forced the development of agriculture, simply to feed the workers? In other words, God first, wheat second. The evidence supports this. The agricultural revolution in this precise region of Turkey began around 10,500 BC, approximately 1,000 years after Göbekli Tepe's construction began. The first domesticated wheat in human history was found just 30 kilometers from this site. The monument predates the farming. Schmidt was right. Something about this place drew people here before they had the infrastructure to support a building project of this scale. And once they were here, they stayed, and they adapted. Let's talk about the carvings, because they're not random decoration. The animals depicted at Göbekli Tepe are overwhelmingly predators, dangerous creatures, and animals associated with death. Vultures, carriers of the dead. Scorpions, snakes. Wild boar with razor tusks. Foxes, which in the ancient Near East were associated with the dead and the underworld. There are almost no domesticated animals, almost no scenes of hunting or farming or daily life. This is not a record of the everyday world. It is a record of something else, something cosmic, something concerning the boundary between the living and the dead, between the human and the divine. Researchers Andrew Collins and Rodney Hale have argued that the arrangement of the enclosures at Göbekli Tepe mirrors the constellation of Cygnus as it appeared in the sky in 9600 BC, specifically the star Deneb, which at that time sat at the north celestial pole. Deneb, the tail of the swan, the point around which the entire night sky appeared to rotate. Whether the astronomical alignment is intentional or coincidental is still debated, but the precision of the construction itself is not in doubt. These were not random stones arranged by accident. The people who built this knew exactly what they were doing. Here is the detail that changes everything. Around 8000 BC, approximately 1,600 years after construction began, Göbekli Tepe was buried. Not by erosion, not by collapse, not by the slow accumulation of windblown sediment over millennia. Someone deliberately filled the site. Clean fill, organized, intentional. Tons of soil and rubble poured carefully into every enclosure, covering every pillar from base to tip, sealing the entire site under a man-made hill. That burial is the reason the carvings survived in perfect condition for 11,000 years. Whoever did this understood preservation. They wanted this site to last. Think about what that means. This wasn't abandonment. This was a conscious decision, carried out by an organized group of people to seal and preserve the most significant construction project in human history, and then cover it so completely that it would look like a natural hill. That is not the behavior of primitive nomads stumbling through the Neolithic. That is the behavior of people who understood what they had built, understood its importance, and made a deliberate choice about its future. Graham Hancock and other researchers have argued that Göbekli Tepe cannot be understood in isolation. It needs to be placed in the context of what was happening to the planet at the time it was built. The site's construction begins at the very end of the Younger Dryas period, a catastrophic cold snap that lasted roughly 1,200 years and ended abruptly around 9,600 BC. This is the same period that saw the extinction of the woolly mammoth, the mastodon, and dozens of other megafauna. The same period connected to a suspected cosmic impact event, whose evidence has been found in sediment layers across multiple continents. In other words, Göbekli Tepe was being built in the immediate aftermath of what may have been a global catastrophe. What if the people who built it weren't building a new thing, but preserving an old one? What if this site is a memorial, a record, a deliberate act of remembering, carved in stone so it couldn't be forgotten, by survivors of a world that had just been largely destroyed? We don't know. That's the honest answer. But the question deserves to be asked. Less than 5% of Göbekli Tepe has been excavated. Geomagnetic surveys have identified at least 16 additional enclosures still completely underground. They wanted someone to find it. We found it. And it has been sitting there for 11,600 years, waiting to ask us a question we don't yet know how to answer. We do not know. We may never know. Let me connect this back to everything we have covered in the first 4 episodes. The Sumerian civilization, the oldest known civilization in the Standard Model, appeared in the river valleys of what is now Iraq around 4,500 BCE. They arrived, according to their own texts, with the knowledge of writing, astronomy, law, mathematics, and agriculture, already fully formed. The Anunnaki gave it to them. It was not developed gradually, it was given. Göbekli Tepe was being built in 9,600 BCE. That is 5,000 years before Sumer, by people we have no name for, with tools we cannot fully account for, at a scale that required coordination we cannot explain. On a hill they then deliberately buried. The Book of Enoch describes a world before the flood in which divine beings lived alongside humanity, taught them forbidden knowledge, and were ultimately judged. The flood in that text is not just a natural disaster. It is a reset, an end of one age and the beginning of another. And here on this hill in Turkey, buried under centuries of deliberately placed soil, is evidence that something existed before what we call the beginning. Something organized, something knowledgeable, something that built on a scale we are still struggling to explain, and then chose to disappear. Next episode, the Nephilim, the giants in the text. Because the giant accounts do not appear only in the Book of Enoch. They appear in Hebrew scripture, in Greek mythology, in Sumerian records, in Norse tradition, in the oral histories of indigenous peoples across North America. Every culture has them. Every culture describes the same basic story. What were they? What happened to them? And why does every ancient civilization remember them? Thanks for watching Unburied Remnants. If you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe to help support the channel. Stay curious, keep digging.